How's it going, y'all? Aiden Anderson here with Moscow Report. I had the privilege recently to sit down with Latah County Commissioner Jason Stooks and talk to him about what the county has been up to this past month and what we as citizens can be paying attention to for the future. Let's get into it. Jason, how are you doing?
Doing well. How about yourself, Aiden?
So far, so good. I suppose we'll kick things off with simply what has the county been up to this past April?
So, this past April, we've been doing a lot of property tax exemptions. So, nonprofits, so that's sorority houses, U of I, even WSU has, property tax exemptions over here. So we're just approving those. They've had them for, continually. Even some new ones are coming through, but it's really, that's revenue that the county doesn't get for those property tax exemptions for whatever. A lot of liquor licenses. So we have renewals and new ones. So one of them was Eastside Theater. Well, I'll talk about that in a little later. And our all hazard mitigation plan. It's supposed to be updated every 5 years. So we're going through the update process. So that's something that our disaster services coordinator Steve Riskin has been working on. I'm on the courthouse committee, courthouse security committee. So really, I'm trying to change that into, county security committee because we have multiple buildings throughout the county, and we need to look at security aspects for the staff there. So it's kind of what we've been doing. We just sold a piece of property off of the 95 North, south of Potlatch. We sold that property through an auction, so 2.5 acres. We sold it for $9,000. So, and
sounds like a bargain in today's market.
Yes, but the property's not too desirable. It's right off of the 95, so maybe they can, get their money back on the open market.
All right. You mentioned the East Side market side of things with a liquor license. Do you mind unpacking the process for that a little bit more?
So the process for getting your liquor license is you start off with submitting an application to Idaho State Police. So you fill out that application, you pay their fee, they'll do an assessment and see if you're able to have a liquor license at that location. If they approve it, then it goes to the city, then the city does their approval process and you pay another fee. And then it comes to the county, we do our approval process, and then you pay another fee. So you pay 3 fees to obtain your liquor license. So for Eastside Village, when they filled out theirs, ISP approved it, but upon our review of it, because there were some questions about, it's the demographics, you have young children to adults, attending them, at the movie theater, and the concession stands where they were planning to sell the alcohol was accessible to all ages. So it's not like at a restaurant to where they're serving it from is separate from underage.
Right.
So we were questioning that, and we found an ordinance that says that you cannot have a liquor license or sell liquor within 300 feet of church or a public school. So because it was a new liquor license for the theater, they had to go through the process with the city and get an exemption because they were within 300 feet of real life church at Eastside Village. So it's, stuff like that. Another process is water rights. You actually submit an application to the state, and the state gives you an approval for, 0.04 cubic feet per second. It totals out to 13,000 gallons per day. So if anyone has watched any of the proceedings, they would see how we actually protest those, because that usage, because we're on an aquifer and it's slowly declining as we grow, and it's not refilling it, based on our consumption. So we always protest those, and then we make an arrangement, an agreement with the property owner to reduce that. So that's something that we're looking to in the future to discuss with our legislators on how to correct that. And I think there is some pending legislation for that, because we don't all have, access to continual water flow.
Right, right.
Like,
just a couple clarifying questions. 13,000 gallons a day, what is the equivalent of that in layman's terms for someone who can't picture what 13,000 gallons must be like?
so the average family uses 300 gallons a day.
Okay, that's helpful, because between that and 13,000 is a pretty significant gap.
Yep, and we do have people that, have their homesteading, they have their small, their hobby farms, their, livestock. So there is some understanding, Idaho is an agricultural state. So 13,000 gallons is a lot of water to use in a day. So that's why we protest it, because being on the aquifer, we have to be conservative with our water usage. So.
So the communication gap there with the state is the state doesn't necessarily take the water necessities or the water situation here into account when they're granting water rights to people who are applying. And so your goal in protesting is to sort of step in there and make sure that the needs in the county as a whole are taken into consideration.
Yes.
Am I getting that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Because that's a conflict throughout time, is the shared waterways, whether it was active streams, rivers, especially for streams, it was always a fight between ranchers that one person is partially on one rancher's property and then it's on another, and then it goes onto another property. Well, one would sort of cut it off and dam it for his property, and then you have property feuds and the Hatfield and McCoy's range.
Right. Yeah. Just going back to the liquor license bit for a minute. So you were bringing up that the theater had to get an exception from the city.
Correct.
In order to have their liquor license approved by you guys because of their proximity to buildings that would otherwise be prohibited in that ordinance. Correct. Was that a county ordinance or was that a city ordinance?
That's a state ordinance.
State, okay.
So
why, just trying to understand the process here, why do they then have to go to the city to get an exception to get approval from the county for a state ordinance?
That's a very good question. So the city is sort of has purview over it.
Okay.
So any sort of enforcement is actually going to happen at the city level. ISP, they're the sort of the first step in the process. They oversee any state law. The city, they can enforce state law as well. And even for us, if we have somebody that establishes a liquor license, outside of city limits, the county and the state would, oversee and enforce that. But, because they're operating within the city limits, the city is the one that can give the exemption, not the state.
Gotcha.
It's a little little confusing. I'm like, why are they paying 3 fees? And going through 3 different approval application processes. And we're pretty thorough when we ask new liquor license applicants. We talk to them and ask them what their experience is of working in a bar, serving, and letting them know that we do stay in contact with local law enforcement on if that location has problems in regards to liquor, alcohol. So they're well aware of the free training that the ISP offers, and serving and knowing when to stop serving, checking IDs and that kind of stuff. So
yeah, makes sense. Is there anything going into, because we're on the last day of this month, is there anything going into next month that the citizens of Latah County should be kept aware of, paying attention to, that sort of thing?
The biggest thing is it's odd, but we have elections this May, on May 20th. Those elections are for the library board, the highway districts, and the sewer and water districts. It's just odd because normally we'll see primaries or our caucuses for, presidential elections happen in May. But this is odd that we're seeing these type of boards and districts having elections in May rather than in November. So we don't have the voter turnout that you normally would see if it was in November. Because most people, when you talk to them about elections, oh yeah, elections are in November. So there's some, lack of communication on getting information out about the elections in May. So just, for people to be aware of those elections coming up on May 20th. In the fall, we're still working through the all hazard mitigation plan. So expect that to be public in the fall and enacted. So we have our upcoming county budgets. So we're going to start going through that process. And on May 5th, I'm on the compensation committee. So that's talking about compensation and the benefits for county employees and staff. So we have that meeting on the 5th of May. So it'll be interesting because salaries are a contentious issue here at the county with, the previous.
As they are any place.
Yes, as they are any place. It was a huge it was a change because the way it was being run before, there wasn't really any consistency. So the way it was rolled out, some people were frustrated, and by all means are always going to be. But hopefully we can, through that compensation meeting, we can look at the future and see how we can make our staff and employees happy.
Yeah, absolutely. Just got one more question for you.
Yes.
Being a new commissioner, how have these first few months gone for you?
It's going well. I always say it's managing people and managing their expectations. And that's really what it boils down to is, and then on top of that, it's the management of constituents and what their expectations are. Because there's a lot of stuff that goes on, especially with property taxes, that comes down from the state level. We're an intermediary, so we're in the middle collecting it. And then it goes to the state, and then it comes back to us, and we disperse it out to, the library, the school, Moscow. So that's how that process goes. With any zoning ordinances for zoning and for planning and building, that stuff comes down from the state too. So, we can choose how to charge fees, but based on those fees, if we lower the cost of fees, then now we are operating in a deficit, and it ends up being now we have to look at either cutting back services or cutting back staffing. And I use the metaphor going to the grocery store.
Okay.
If you're standing in a line at the grocery store, right, there's 5 people in line, they got full shopping carts and 1 cashier. So if the store brings on another another cashier, that means the line gets cut in half and more people can go through the line and get their groceries purchased and go about their day. It's the same thing with any of the services the county provides. If we don't have the staff to process it, then it's going to take longer for inspections to happen. There was recent legislation for planning and zoning that I think they extended it to 15 days, or it started at 15 days, but the foundation of it is if we aren't able to, the county is not able to do an inspection for the proper owner within a certain number of days, they can go out to a third party and hire them, and then the county is now responsible for paying for that third party inspection to reimburse it.
Gotcha.
So based on that, if we were to lower our fees at planning planning and building, we would remove staff. So now we're not able to follow through with what the state is mandating us. So we would have to be paying for reimbursements, and there's nothing saying that those third-party inspectors couldn't actually charge a higher rate because of expedience.
Right.
Oh, it's an emergency. You weren't able to get the inspection done. I'm going to charge a convenience fee. So now the county's having to pay more money. So now the county has to get that money from somewhere. And the only way the county gets any revenue is through taxes and fees for services.
So it becomes in not just the county's best interest, but also the taxpayer's best interest to see those positions filled out such that with those inspections taking place, that it's coming through in an expedient fashion so that there's less of these reimbursements associated with the process. And then everybody saves a little bit of money. Is that a good way to frame it?
Yeah, that's the goal. And then it's, from there, it's, the majority of, any business ends up being salaries. So how do you adjust that to reduce your overhead? But then again, when you reduce overhead, you reduce positions, and now you increase wait times and inconveniences. So at the end of the day, it's how inconvenient do you want to be with paying less taxes?
It's a little bit of a balancing act there, I imagine.
It is.
Well, thank you so much for the update, and looking forward to what's coming next.
Awesome. Thank you, Aiden.
Thank you for your time, Jason.
Thank you.
That's all I got for you this week, but I hope to have more conversations like this with the commissioners going forward. As always, we'll have the relevant links posted with this video, and if you have any questions you'd like me to ask the commissioners, please send them my way. I'm Aiden Anderson with Moscow Report, and this has been an update from Latah County. We'll see you next time.